BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, and it's finally time to talk about Kamen Rider Gotchard again because, well, I was gonna save that for February because I was gonna ask you guys on a post if you wanted me to make a video about Houtarou. I think I was gonna call it how Houtarou became Kamen Rider's cutest ship pair and the Writer's Room Civil War. And then I was busy dealing with depression, so to my surprise, Kamen Rider Gotchard's getting a sequel novel? It's hype Gotchard sweet because we've got a lot to talk about with this one. So, general details. Sales price is going to be 1,000 yen, well, 1,100 yen, tax included, which is about $6.95, which is reasonable. I could buy it, but I'm going to have to wait for someone to translate it instead. It's scheduled for release around March 16, 2026. I might have to talk about this the next time I talk about Boruto, but in publication, usually a book gets worked on, and after going through revisions and final drafts, usually take about a couple of months to even a year to get released. So they likely have been working on this for a while. So who's writing it? Well, it's one of the three head writers himself, Hiroyuki Uchida. I mean, it does make sense. He was the head writer originally, then Keiichi Hasegawa was brought on as a co-writer since this would be Uchida's first project as head writer. And despite some jokes I make about him, he's clearly talented, and, you know, getting support is never a bad thing. But the other author is Yosuke Minato, the head producer of Gotchard, which also makes sense given that he actually fought for a lot of things in the show, like Rene becoming the secondary writer. Given how much Koichi talked about the rise of female fans, as well as confirmation that girls ended up watching Gotchard more, which also kind of led into Girls Remix being made, yeah, that's actually a pretty good thing since he cared. If you're wondering why Akiko, Inoue, and Hasegawa is not writing it, Hasegawa popped up as a guest writer in Gozuger, so he's likely busy working on another project, while Akiko's busy as the head writer for Gozuger, so that explains that. So I've been seeing a few different versions of the synopsis that came out, and here's basically the main one. 1 year has passed since Kamen Rider Gotchard, Houtaro Ichinose, and his allies defeated the evil alchemist Glion and defeated Ouroboros, the entity that governs cycles and eternity. One day, a mysterious light descends upon a new Earth. Upon receiving reports from the Chemies, Houtarou and Kurogane Supanna, a teacher at the Alchemist Academy, begin their investigation. At the same time, the organization known as Fractal starts operating in the shadows, peddling a mysterious life form called Hope. A must-read book for Gotchard fans. This novelizations adapts standout episodes from a hypothetical Gotchard Season 2 that depicts Houtaro and others' new adventures, continuing directly from the TV series and the V-Cinema film Kamen Rider Gotchard Graduations. The second version I had found said, this novelization of a famous episode from the hypothetical Season 2, which depicts the new exploits of Houtaro and his friends, is a must-read for Gotchard fans. So some of you are probably thinking, well, what's the difference? Well, depending on how you translate it, it's either basically the novel is going to be like a set of episodes, like a specific episode if Gotchard got a hypothetical Season 2, we get to see where everyone is like now. But depending on how you translate it, it can also be a series of adventures and episodes set in Gotchard's worlds. Basically, what I'm saying is, depending on the translation, you're either getting a series of episodes that would fit into a hypothetical Season 2, or we're getting an entire storyline that could basically be the equivalent to like 3 to 8 episodes, depending on how long the novel is. Because when I read the Forze novel, it kind of felt like a plotline that could be at least 3 to 4 episodes, if not a movie. Now, what do I think about this? I am interested to see what they're going to do. First off, having Spanner as a teacher is a good sign of growth on his end because he kind of struggled with getting any of his allies to actually work with him outside of obligation before he started to be okay with working with them. And the synopsis kind of implies that Houtaro is still working with the Alchemist Academy, so he's probably still working as a big shot alchemist, but I would like to see it reformed because I generally thought that Minato was going to be the head leader, especially since most of the head leaders ran off or got killed. But I also want to watch like Graduations and Future Daybreak and the Alchemist spinoff. Yes, I need to watch them. Because just for the record, I know that getting rid of a leader doesn't automatically make an organization or governmental system better, but removing the gladiators in an organization and making sure that the new higher-ups actually make things better and fix the flaws of the previous administration may be reaching a bit too far, but the show did present that and explain why those organizations were bad, as well as wanting people that were on the main cast to actually fix and improve the system. So I'm looking forward to see how and when it's changed, even though Minato is still pretty good as a teacher. As for Fractal, I like the name. A fractal is a curved or geometric figure, each part of which has the same statistical character as the whole. They're often used in model structures where similar patterns recur at progressively smaller scales and describe partially random or chaotic phenomena such as crystal growth, fluid turbulence, and galaxy formation. Given that we're dealing with a show who's used humans as models for homunculi, and amalgams were based off the negative emotions of their user, magnified to dangerous levels combined with the varied levels of the chemies, which we know can evolve, I think the organization name fits pretty well, and I'm curious at this peddling a mysterious life form called Hope. Are we making another organization revolving around using artificial life? Because Gotchard's already had the Yakuza, the Dark Sisters, Glion and the Kings, 100, and Cloud. So having another organization fits in pretty well with what we had with the lore, and it's a Kamen Rider show. You think there wouldn't be a bunch of sinister people out there trying to take advantage of magic power? I've also seen some people joke that Rinne isn't going to show up because she wasn't in the summary. Like I said with Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush, anyone who thought Yuamu wasn't going to show up in Season 3 just because she wasn't on the poster was completely asinine. And yeah, Rinne has to show up in some capacity. I'll talk about this later, but people have pointed out there's going to be memorial cards that are being released in the driver. So there's no way she's not going to be included in this novel whatsoever. They did say that the story takes place after graduation, so if she is showing up, I hope they at least acknowledge that she was with Girls Remix, especially since Uchida wrote both of those. Also, here's something I didn't recognize. Today was the 2-year anniversary of when Majade transformed for the first time in the show as Majade in episode 19. Well, in Japan, it was January 21st, 2024, but when half of you watch this, it'll be January 21st. Japan's ahead of us by a couple of hours, I believe. Maybe, I think, 12? Now, what do I want to see? I want to keep my expectations low, but I would like to see how Tamami's doing, Hotaro's mom. What the situation with Renge and Sapamaru, especially the relationship, since I would like to see a line or two about how his village and her home are doing pretty well. Kyoke to show up since she and Minato are married now, which people are surprised by, but TRDL, Kyoke's actress would kind of flirt with him subtly, but his actor didn't 100% realize or played it off as a joke. As for the cards, I would like to see Houtaro, Rinne, and Spanner use a set of cards that they did not use before. And allegedly, the Memorial Gotchard Igniter is going to have the burnt-up version of UFO X and Exceed Fighter. And in the Memorial Alchemist Driver, the one that Majade uses, reverse versions of Gaiard and Dragon Lost. Granted, I said before, talking about the problems with Rinne getting Gaia Dragoon, but if they want to include it, I think this is the best possible option for it and to give it to her. For example, one of the translators noticed that the Japanese fandom is going crazy about the reveal that a Gotchard Season 2 is real in the book. They're making reactions to certain episodes in it. Another person says, you don't just make a show like Gotchard and expect the creators behind it not to want to make more of it. And I agree, it's the second best performing show of Reiwa behind 01, and the economy was still recovering after Saber, Revice, and Geet, so it's doing well for itself. I think of all the shows that could benefit from a season 2 or have the means to have an anime series, W's proven it could happen. I think there's an argument for Forze, Gaim, Ghost, X-Aid, Kiva, Decade, and Gotchard especially, so why not capitalize it? Another user pointed out that Revice novels comes out in about 2 weeks, Gotchard's novel comes out in 2 months, Build novel comes out in 2 years. I'm curious on the issues with the Build novel, but it's not easy to write a novel, so there probably was some difficulty in trying to get everything together, but I hope the Build novel comes out. I don't want to see writer projects fail regardless of what show that they're from. I've seen people call it Gotchard RX. Someone said, congrats to Kamen Rider Gotchard for being the first writer season to get a second season. I mean, that depends on if double counts with the Futo PI, Rider Time Ryuki, and Black RX, but if we're talking about Reiwa seasons, yeah, it's the first in Reiwa. Another user asks, why did Gotchard get a novel while the actual stuff I like with actual gaps in story don't get one? Okay, I'm not going to be rude with this one, but personally, I think if any writer or novelist who understands the series wants to make a sequel novel or manga or TV spin-off or anime spin-off or sequel to a Kamen Rider season, I'd be down for it, because it's not like every season gets that, since the seasons I argue has the most side content would be Gaim, X8, and Den-O especially. And I do agree it would be nice to get more seasons, but I don't feel like we should be mad at Gotchard just because it got that opportunity. Japanese opinions are, well, the thoughts are all over the place. One person said, after erasing Ouroboros is written so casually, but it's a being with the strength of the Dark King level and has an immortality skill. The method of defeating it is completely unknown, yet Spanner went and beat it alone due to certain circumstances. There's no depiction of the fight. At this point, as long as Spanner is around, any incident is basically safe. Also, he's working as a teacher. That's nice. Okay, yeah, I do agree. Had my thoughts. Gotchard ain't over yet. Whoa, we novelized select standout episodes from Gotchard Virtual Season 2 with this comic saying, I don't know what is that. So scary. Yeah, so people are kind of a little bit confused about what it is. Another person said, the novel Gotchard has quite an insane plot summary, doesn't it? Yeah. Another person said, I've been reading the last sentence of the summary for the Gotchard novel, and no matter how many times I go over it, I can't quite wrap my head around the meaning. It's like we selected a gem of an episode from the non-existent Kamen Rider Gotchard Season 2 that's only airing in Professor Uchida's brain and turned it into a novel. Is that about right? What the heck are you even saying? Another person pointed out that their reservations are alive and kicking for the second wave of Gotchard memorials, which I talked about, the Memorial Alchemist Driver Unit. So most likely the new cards will be here, which I understand why people are coming from with that. Another person said the interactions between Spanner and Houtaro had some nice flavor in the Commandant episode, or the duel and such, and I'm looking forward to that. I love that episode because it's literally Houtaro putting Spanner inside of a cannon and just shooting him, which did work. All right, let's talk about Houtarou, which I found the actual kanji for, which I'm going to need for February, especially since I still got that infamous tweets. One person said, Gotchard novel, I'm so thrilled. Takarin, which is Houtarou, depending on how you translate it. I'm counting on you. My wishes for the Gotchard novel, progress with Takarin. You know, at least calling them each other by their first names. El Brene doesn't get a boyfriend in England. True. Twilight and Kurogane's active roles. And appearances by Kazuki Shizuma, which I had to translate, that's Sena and Fuga. Another person said, I want to see that, right? Like a scene where Houtaro and Rene call each other by their first names. So, for a rather complex situation for all my followers who don't keep up with Kamen Rider, basically in Japan, you usually refer to someone by their last name with either honorific like San, Senpai, Kun, Domo, Sama, X. And first names are when you are really close with that person or want to be close with that person. And given how much people like these two together, I wouldn't blame them. Another person said the virtual season 3 should mainly focus on Takumi's son and Spanner Sensei. Okay, you're funny. This is probably going to be like a set in like 2026 or like a year after graduations. And when Renee's on a Girls Remix for now, it is way too early for that in the timeline. That being said, it would be interesting to see that in like a 10 years later season if they were to make like a season 3X. Another person said in the hypothetical season 2, I wonder what's going on with Takarin, Houtarou. There's the me who wants there to be some progress and the me who wants to see them hang out on friendly terms with the same distances back in high school. Like, same, I want some progress, but I just like to see them like have their fun vibes together. But that's it for me. What are your hopes and expectations? Are you excited? Are you confused on what the next novel is going to be about? What other Kamen Rider seasons would you like to see get a second installment in some way or form? Let me know what other Kamen Rider content you'd like me to make. That's it for me. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe because that always helps. Let me know your full thoughts in the comments below. And BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, signing off. Also, side note, I do know there's a lot of Houtarou shippers. I've heard on China on Bilibili, but I need to be able to find a link so I can actually start watching some of the content that they made there. But someone pointed out that the only person that should be trusted with Houtarou as a couple is Hasegawa, and I would 100% agree with that. Anyway, thanks for watching.